All right, it's 2 o'clock, so I think we'll get started now. Thanks everybody for joining us today to learn more about this year's Rural and Native American RFP under Enterprise's Section 4 Capacity Building Grant Program. My name's Kate Diffenderfer, and I'm a Senior Grant Specialist here at Enterprise, and I'll be leading you through today's presentation along with Sarah Torcell, our Program Director with Enterprise's Rural and Native American Program. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted on our website along with the PowerPoint slides in the next day. So if you need to hop off early or want to go back to review anything, you'll have that opportunity. Since we have a decent number of people on the call today, everyone has been muted upon entry. We're asking you to submit questions through the Q&A chat feature. And then at the end of the presentation, our colleague Brittany Dunbar is going to read those questions out loud as part of the Q&A session. So today we're going to start off by giving you a brief overview of Enterprise's mission, history of the Section 4 program, key elements of the Rural and Native American RFP that you should be aware of if you decide that this is a good funding opportunity for your organization to pursue. We'll give you some reminders and resources, and then we'll end with Q&A. And before we get started, just remember that any information that we share in today's webinar that appears to be discrepant from the language in the RFP is superseded by the RFP. We encourage everybody on the call who's planning to apply to carefully review the RFP to understand all of the requirements and the application process. So a little bit about Enterprise. So more than 35 years ago, Enterprise was founded by Jim and Patty Rouse with the ambitious vision to end poverty across the United States by giving everyone the opportunity to live in a decent, affordable home. Jim, who's seen here, wore a few hats in his professional career. He was a businessman, an activist, an early proponent of urban renewal, and a socially conscious developer. He sought to not just make profits, but to transform the landscape and the quality of life for everybody. And that vision continues today, and Enterprise is strongly committed to our mission to make home and community places of pride, power and belonging, and platforms for resilience and upward mobility for everybody. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah to talk you through some of the components of the RFP.
Thank you, Kate. So as Kate mentioned, I am a program director with the Rural and Native American program here at Enterprise. Enterprise has been working in rural communities since 1997, and since that time has invested more than $990 million in grants, loans, and equity, and we've developed more than 16,000 affordable homes in rural communities nationwide. Our Rural and Native American program provides funding and training along with technical assistance to organizations to help create healthy, safe, green, affordable homes and to increase opportunities for economic advancement for individuals and families in both rural and Native communities. We support organizations all across the country, and we have grantees ranging from Maine to Alaska. Recently, with some of our programming, we have started leveraging our Section 4 funding with private funding to offer more intensive training programs such as our Native Homeownership Learning Communities cohort or our work through the Colorado Preservation Academy. And we find that this results in greater impact to our partners and to the communities that we serve. Rural preservation and supporting Native homeownership are definitely two of our biggest priorities, but I will go into more details here momentarily on other work we are interested in supporting through this Section 4 grant opportunity. And finally, I just want to mention that the Rural and Native American program and Enterprise in general is very interested in supporting work that advances racial equity in housing, supporting minority-led organizations, and supporting work that is happening in areas of persistent poverty. And we'll touch on all that a little bit later in the presentation. Next slide. So what is Section 4? Section 4 is a federal program that provides grants to national intermediaries, such as Enterprise, with the purpose to develop the capacity and ability of community development corporations, CDCs, and community housing development organizations, CHODOs, to carry out community development and affordable housing activities that benefit low-income families. And for the purposes of Section 4, that is defined as 80% AMI or below. So those are really the two threshold requirements for Section 4 funding, one being eligibility. And for HUD purposes, again, we define these groups as CDCs and CHODOs, but I will talk a little bit later on the groups that are eligible under our Native American program that meet the CDC definition. And then the second piece is really the activities have to benefit low-income families. Section 4 really is the only federal program of its kind that provides crucial operating and capacity building dollars to CDCs and CHODOs. Next slide. So here are just some key bullets that we wanted to highlight regarding this particular grant opportunity. All the information related to this RFP is available on our website. The total amount to be awarded through the Rural and Native American RFP is a little over $700,000. Our award ranges between $35,000 and $100,000, but our average award is expected to be around $50,000 for rural and Native Americans. So just keep that in mind when submitting your applications and proposed budgets and proposals, that while the grant range goes up to $100,000, our average grant award is really $50,000. This funding opportunity is really only available to eligible CDCs and CHODOs that meet the criteria in Appendix A of the RFP, and we're going to talk about a little more on eligibility here in a moment. Proposals must have a direct capacity building benefit to the CDC or CHODO. And because these are federal funds, this funding is dispersed on a cost reimbursement basis. All funds must be incurred before reimbursement can occur. If you are selected to receive a grant, these particular dollars are not advanced. Next slide. So the Rural and Native American program, we work nationwide. However, in order to qualify for this funding, the grant activities you are applying for must be in a rural area. Your organization doesn't necessarily need to be physically located in a rural geography, but the work you are applying for has to be in a rural geography. So there are some organizations out there that are located in an urban market, but they do work in both urban and rural geographies. So if you were applying for rural and Native American work, the work would have to be in a rural geography. So the definition is included right up here and it's in the RFP, but as you can see, it's really for communities with a population of 50,000 or less. Next slide. We also have a tool that's included in the RFP that you can use to plug in your project location to determine if it qualifies as a rural area. So using the link, you can plug in your zip code, your project location, and on the map, if it turns pink, that means you are in an urban area and would not qualify for rural funding. If that's the case, then I would recommend looking at the National Section 4 RFP. That RFP was released on August 17th, and more information can be found on our website about that opportunity, but that's the national RFP covers urban markets and geographies across the country. So again, if your project or grant activities are not in an urban or not in a rural area, then you would want to look at the National Section 4 RFP. Next slide. So as I said, this funding opportunity covers the entire country, but in our continued efforts to support some of the most impoverished communities, we are giving bonus points to organizations who are working in an area of persistent poverty. Persistent poverty counties are defined as counties that have had poverty rates of 20% or greater for at least 30 years. So just like the definition of rural, there are multiple definitions of what qualifies as a area of persistent poverty, but we are using the U.S. Department of Treasury CDFI fund definition of what a persistent poverty county is. And through this, there are approximately 384 counties that meet this definition. There is also a link included in the RFP that you can use to confirm if the county you are working in is located in one of these areas. So if you, on the application process, if you check that yes, you are working in an area of persistent poverty, Enterprise staff will also confirm that. And if it aligns with the list that we are referring to, you would be given 2 priority points for working in these areas. Next slide. So just a few more high-level points to either reiterate or highlight for you again. You've heard me now reference that there are 2 open RFPs at this time, one for national and one for rural and Native American. You can only submit 1 proposal to either one of those 2 open RFPs. So, you know, there are organizations out there who work in both urban and rural communities, but for this opportunity, you would have to select either the urban or the rural, depending on what your proposed grant activities are. The rural and Native American RFP proposals have to be submitted in Slide Room by 11:59 p.m. Eastern on September 23rd. All applications have to be submitted via Slide Room, and you can register for a free account through our website. So just to make it clear, when you go to our website, there's sections for the national RFP and the rural and Native American RFP, but the Slide Room registration account is relevant for both. So make sure you give yourself ample time if you aren't registered in Slide Room to create an account and work out any sort of technical glitches that may come with opening up a Slide Room account. So we touched on this a little bit at the beginning, but Section 4 really is only available to CDCs and certified CHODOs. However, other eligible organizations may include organizations serving Native American populations with a defined mission that includes affordable housing, such as tribes, Native CDFIs, tribally designated housing entities, or tribal housing authorities. So we use the language CDCs and CHODOs for HUD purposes, but a lot of these organizations that I just mentioned, they function like a CDC and are eligible for this grant opportunity as well. Again, Appendix A in the RFP talks a lot about eligibility. So if you aren't sure if you are a CDC, you can refer to Appendix A, and it goes over the characteristics of what it means to be considered a CDC. And it also includes information on a CHODO status. So a CHODO is a designation. You know if you are a CHODO or not because it's a designation that comes from your city, state, county, whereas a CDC, the definition can kind of be a little more fluctuating, but HUD has given us these characteristics that outline what a CDC is for Section 4 funding if you aren't sure. Again, eligible activities must address the needs of households with low income as required under Section 4, and that's 80% AMI or lower. If you've looked at Appendix A and you still aren't sure if you are eligible, please email the RFP mailbox at rfp@enterprisecommunity.org, and our grants department and grants team will determine if you are eligible or not for this funding opportunity. All right, so now I want to talk a little bit in more detail about the program areas outlined in the RFP. So if you've ever applied to the Rural and Native American RFP, you may notice that our program areas and how we describe them have changed from years past. Essentially, we're supporting much of the same work we have before, but we have simplified how we have categorized these in the following ways. We have Program Area 1, Preservation and Production, Program Area 2, People and Place-Based Solutions, and Program Area 3, Protection for Vulnerable Populations. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about each of the program areas. There is additional information in the RFP, but I want to kind of dive into each one with a little more information and details. So first up, preservation and production. Enterprise has been long committed to preserving affordable housing in rural communities and working with partners on building their capacity to develop and manage affordable housing. So this opportunity includes subsidized and unsubsidized affordable housing and small and medium multifamily units. And on the rural side of things, we definitely have a particular interest in supporting groups pursuing the preservation of at-risk 515 housing stock. So funding can be used by organizations to locate properties that are susceptible to being converted to market rate development. Funds could be used for staff time to perform due diligence on a potential acquisition, to work with existing owners. Funds could be used for pre-development costs such as appraisals, market studies, comprehensive needs assessments. That's sort of the overview of preservation. I'm giving examples of activities or uses of funds, but this is not inclusive of everything that could potentially be eligible. So if there are questions on uses or eligibility, feel free to contact the RFP mailbox or myself, and we can help answer some of those questions for you. So the second piece to Program Area 1 is on the production side of things, and that's really for applicants that are developing safe, healthy, resilient, and culturally relevant affordable housing. And this includes homeownership opportunities for moderate to low income households. So that's Program Area 1, Preservation and Production. Program Area 2, People and Place-Based Solutions. So under this program area, we are supporting Native homeownership. This is a program area that's really gained a lot of momentum the last couple of years through our work on the Tribal Leaders Handbook on homeownership, the Native Homeownership Learning Communities cohort, and the Enhancing and Implementing Homeownership Programs in Native Communities curriculum training. So here, this area, we're very focused on building the capacity of organizations to enhance or implement a homeownership program in your Native community. This program area, again, it's really all about increasing homeownership opportunities for Native Americans. So funds could be used for staff working on or creating a homeownership program, credit counseling programs, or pre and post purchase counseling, just to name a few examples. This opportunity is really only for organizations serving Native Americans, so tribes, TDHEs, THAs, and Native CDFIs. Economic growth is another component under Program Area 2. Here, this program is all about advancing economic mobility for low-income families, especially families of color and those geographically disconnected from opportunity. This work also supports community and economic development. So activities such as creating social enterprises and planning for community and economic development activities in your community would be eligible here. Creative placemaking also falls under this program area. We're interested in supporting organizations who are connecting arts and culture to shed light on a local community issue. So think about arts connected to a public health issue, for example. Healthy communities. Here we're looking to support organizations who are working to reduce and prevent health disparities experienced by low-income residents. And this includes resident and client services that address mental health and healing from historical traumas. And the last area under this people and place-based solutions is resilience. This is really the need for more resilient housing in preparation to withstand and recover from natural disasters. So this area would be for organizations who are proactively preparing to respond to the continued threat of natural disasters and ongoing disaster recovery work. we know a lot of organizations have had to shift or adapt their programming to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. And so organizations developing or updating business continuity protocols would be eligible under this category as well. Organizations who are developing comprehensive disaster plans that include factors such as resident engagement strategies and preparation protocols would also be work or activities under this particular program. So that's a lot that fits under the people and place-based solutions category. And then the third and final one is protection for vulnerable populations. So this program area is for organizations working with the most vulnerable populations, low-income families, older adults, homeless and formerly homeless households, persons with disabilities, persons with substance abuse issues, mental health issues, formerly incarcerated, and veterans groups. So, a lot of the permanent supportive housing work we've supported over the years fits in under this category. And we're really looking, to support organizations that are working on creating permanent supportive housing, organizations who are working on reentry housing and services. And that really is the need to provide housing and other services to formerly incarcerated persons. Supporting organizations who are developing projects and services or programming that serves a population with a history of chronic drug and alcohol abuse. We know that rural communities have definitely been hit hard with addiction issues. And we're also interested in supporting groups that are working to improve the health and service outcomes through housing and community-based solutions. So health in the built environment, aging in place, and then partnership with service providers. So those are the three program areas. Like I said, we categorize them in this new way that aligns better with the work enterprise is doing more broadly, but a lot of the work that we have funded in the past still lives under these program areas. So if there's any kind of questions or concerns about the way we describe this, please do let us know. And then with that, I am going to turn it back over to Kate to talk more about Section 4 eligible uses and expenses.
All right, thanks, Sarah. So as you prepare your proposal, you'll want to make sure that the types of costs you request to help support your program or activities are eligible and will provide a direct capacity building benefit to your organization. It's also critical to make sure that your budget includes eligible costs, because each proposal is going to be scored based on the reasonableness of your proposed budget, as well as if the costs listed are eligible. So below here is a list of the most common allowable expenses that we support with our grants. The first is staff salaries, and this is probably the most common expense I think that we support. You can request funding to support existing staff or to support new hires to help your organization continue to advance and fulfill its mission. Staff and board training is also allowable. We know how critical it is for organizations to have knowledgeable staff, so training to enhance an employee's skill sets and abilities is definitely allowable. And other examples could include leadership training, training on technology, training geared towards any community development or affordable housing topics, or defining the role of your board are all eligible. Another common request is tied to enhancing an organization's IT capacity through upgrades to hardware and software. So this could be systems related to financial management, customer relationship management, tracking services or resident information, or just an upgrade for staff equipment like new computers to help them accomplish their work. We also support consultant or contractor expenses. Consultants can be retained to help with a variety of capacity building activities like strategic planning, board or staff training, racial equity and diversity training. You could secure them for pre-development costs related to design, architecture, or engineering, training staff on new IT technology, and so on. So a few things to be aware of if you decide to request funding for consultants. They cannot be retained for any policy, fundraising, or advocacy or lobbying work. And they also have to be selected through full and open competition. And the selected consultant needs to have the ability and qualifications to actually perform the proposed work. And the labor rates that they charge also have to be fair, reasonable, and consistent with the rates that they charge on their other contracts. And on page 24 of our Enterprise Grants Guide, there's more information about working with consultants, and the Grants Guide is on our website. So a few examples of ineligible activities and allowable costs includes expenses for new lines of business or startup costs. This also includes any kind of staff time or consultant expenses related to those. So this could be mergers, the formation of a new organization, whether that's a nonprofit, a for-profit, really anything related to the establishment or reorganization of an organization isn't allowable. We also can't support any direct fundraising cost to support any of your organizational expenses or programs. So this includes financial campaigns, endowment drives, any solicitation of gifts or bequests, and similar expenses incurred to raise capital or obtain any kind of contributions. So we can't support any time for you to meet with donors or write grants or host or organize any kind of fundraising events, unfortunately. Also unallowable are any giveaways, prizes, incentives, and stipends. And we know that offering these types of things is one of the few ways to get participation for certain programs or events. But again, unfortunately, this is not an allowable expense. And we also can't support any entertainment costs, including alcohol. So the last thing that we're going to focus on here is lobbying activities, which is also unallowable. So lobbying usually involves activities that are in direct support or opposition to a specific piece of legislation. And we have two types of lobbying here. Direct lobbying, which is communication with a legislator, an employee of a legislator or legislative body, or any covered executive branch or other government employee who may participate in the formation of legislation. So any kind of communication that refers to a specific piece of legislation and expresses a view on it is not allowable. Grassroots lobbying is an attempt to influence specific legislation by encouraging the public to contact legislators about that legislation. So again, not eligible under this program. Lobbying is not any study or research that you may conduct, examinations and discussions about broad social, economic, or similar problems, promoting or sharing any successes of your program, or requests for technical advice or assistance. So all of those activities are critical to helping find specific solutions to persistent problems and are not considered lobbying. So next we'll go over the threshold requirements that applicants must meet, and then we'll talk again about how your proposals will be scored. So as Sarah mentioned, there are two threshold requirements that applicants must meet. The first is that each applicant must be eligible to apply for this funding. And again, if you're unsure if your organization meets the eligibility requirements in Appendix A of the RFP, email us at rfp@enterprisecommunity.org, and we'll be in touch to help you make that determination. The second is that the proposed activities must address the needs of low-income families, again defined as 80% AMI or below for the Section 4 program. Any proposals that don't meet these two thresholds won't be scored. All of the scoring criteria is listed on pages 8 and 9 in the RFP, and the proposals will be scored by a panel of enterprise staff. Proposals can receive up to 104 points based on responses to the following 4 criteria. So we've got criteria 1, the impact to communities. Criteria 2, the impact to the applicant organization. Criteria 3, the soundness of approach and readiness to proceed. Criteria 4, reasonableness of your proposed budget. And then under the Rural and Native American RFP, you have the opportunity to get an additional 4 priority points. So you could receive up to 2 priority points. They're tied to Enterprise's commitment to advancing racial equity by answering questions 23 through 25 in slide room. And these are just questions about your organization's demographics for your executive leadership, board of directors, and the communities it serves. So, and then lastly, applicants can receive an additional 2 priority points for proposing to work in an area of persistent poverty. You'll be asked to enter the county that you're proposing to work in so we can verify that you're actually working in an area of persistent poverty. This question will also be in slide room as part of your proposal. So again, all proposals have to be submitted in slide room, which is the online application system that we're using for this program. We recommend registering early for your slide room account just to avoid any technical hiccups. When you register, we ask that you set your account up under your organization name and not your individual name. So it should be the ABC Foundation and not Mary Smith. If you run into any trouble, Slide Room has a great support team. You can reach out to them at support@slideroom.com, and they're available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern. We also recommend previewing all of the required proposal questions to prepare for your submission and to gather all the required templates and attachments. So as part of your proposal, you must download the following 3 templates. These are required. You can access these from the RFP, from within Slide Room, or when we post this PowerPoint on our website, you can access them here too. So the first is the scope of work template, Exhibit A. You're going to answer all of the questions. There's a limit of 4 pages max, and we're asking you to upload this in Word. Exhibit B is your budget, and this is where you're going to list the types of costs that you'd like the grant to support. So your salary expenses, any consultant expenses, and things like that. And we're asking you to upload this in Excel. The last required template is the risk assessment questionnaire, which is Exhibit C. And this is just a series of questions related to your organization's policies and procedures. This is to give us a good sense of how well your organization can successfully manage a federal grant fund. And we're asking for you to upload this as an Excel document. So again, these 3 documents you must upload as part of your Slide Room submission. Applicants will also be asked to upload the following documents. So my recommendation would be to go through this list and kind of gather them all together so you have everything ready to go and upload into Slide Room. The first is your 501c3 letter of determination for applicants that have this designation. So as Sarah went over, we know that some tribal organizations that we consider eligible for this program don't have a 501c3 letter of determination, and that's fine. We're just asking for those that do to upload their letter. We're also asking for a completed and signed IRS W-9. If you can verify that your organization has a current account in the System for Award Management, also known as SAM, we're going to ask you to upload a copy of either your PDF export of your SAM record or a screenshot of the record. And just a note, if you don't have this now, that's fine, but if your organization receives a recommendation of award from Enterprise, we have to have this verification, and we won't be able to issue the grant until we get it. So SAM is a free US government website that vendors are required to register in to do business with the government, or if they receive a federally funded grant or contract. You can find more information about how to register at sam.gov or on page 14 of the RFP. We're also asking for a certificate of good standing. So a certificate of good standing or a certificate of existence just shows that your business has paid its taxes, it's filed required documents, and has otherwise complied with regulations in your state of formation. You can obtain this certificate from your state's business filing agency or Secretary of State, and the certificate only needs to be current for the purposes of this grant program. You're going to be asked to upload a copy of your organization's most recent audit. If you don't have an audit, we'll also accept financial reviews conducted by a CPA who's independent of your organization, or your most recent IRS 990. And lastly, If your organization expended more than $750,000 during its fiscal year, you'll be asked to upload a copy of your single audit. So again, these are the documents that we're asking you to upload as part of your submission process as applicable. Okay, again, so all proposals have to be submitted through SlideRoom by 11:59 p.m. Eastern on September 23rd. SlideRoom automatically closes at 11:59, so again, please submit your proposal well in advance of the deadline. Carefully review your proposals before submitting, and unfortunately, any late or hard copy proposals or anything submitted outside of SlideRoom will not be accepted. So again, register for your account in SlideRoom early. Once you answer all your questions, upload the required templates and attachments, and hit submit, you'll receive a confirmation message with a confirmation ID number, the date that you submitted, and the program that you submitted to. A confirmation email with information pertaining to the submission will also be sent to the primary contact person who created the SlideRoom account. So I would recommend keeping this email for your records. And then if you also want to print out a copy of your proposal, you have that option to do it through SlideRoom as well. So a few reminders as you work on your proposals. Carefully read the RFP to review the eligibility requirements, the program areas, scoring criteria, and the federal requirements that govern the Section 4 program. Give yourself enough time to familiarize yourself with the SlideRoom submittal process and to receive any needed technical support. You can submit questions to us through rfp@enterprisecommunity.org from August 20th through 5 p.m. Eastern on September 23rd, 2020. And this is really important to remember, because if you need help, you need to reach out to us well before the deadline on September 23rd. Any emails that we get after 5:00 p.m. Eastern will not be answered. So again, read the RFP and send us your questions well before the September 23rd deadline. And again, any proposals that we receive outside of SlideRoom, by email, by mail, fax, or hand delivery will not be considered. So if your organization is recommended for an award, you'll receive the official notification by email, and this notification is only provided as a statement of interest in developing a grant agreement. This isn't your grant agreement, and the notification isn't a legally binding document. Receiving your award is contingent upon finalizing your scope of work and budget, if any changes need to be made, successful completion of the risk assessment review process, which is tied to the risk assessment questionnaire, Exhibit C that you're going to be required to complete and upload as part of your proposal, and also collecting any federal requirements like SAM confirmation. So if we ask you for these items, we'll provide a deadline that we need the materials by, and the expectation is that any requests we make are addressed in a timely manner. If an organization that's recommended for an award isn't responsive or misses the deadline without reaching out to us to let us know why they may not be able to meet that deadline, it's possible that the recommendation of award could be rescinded. You know, we're always excited to make these awards, and we want to see CDCs and CHOTOs make the best use of the funding. So please be responsive to any of our requests so we can get these agreements to you quickly. Another big thing to remember is that grant funds are dispersed on a cost reimbursement basis only, and we will only reimburse grantees for mutually agreed upon expenses. And these will be the expenses that are described in your final scopes of work and your budgets. And we will only disperse funds after both enterprise and the grantee have signed off on the grant agreement, and we will only reimburse for costs incurred within the grant period of performance. So any costs that you incur without having a fully executed grant in place are the responsibility of the awardee. Enterprise cannot reimburse you for these costs. So I mentioned earlier that we'll be posting a recording of today's session and a copy of the PowerPoint on our website in the next day. If you want to learn more about our grants process, our grants guide is a great resource, and that's on our website as well. And here are the 2 email addresses to reach out to us here at Enterprise for any questions about the RFP. Email us at rfp@enterprisecommunity.org. And if you need any help with SlideRoom, logging in, you forget your password, maybe somebody's created the account within your organization, but now they've left, you'll want to reach out to the SlideRoom support team here at support@slideroom.com. And with that, I think we're ready for Q&A.
Awesome, sounds good. Thanks, Kate. So we have a lot of really great questions. So we've answered some of them directly in the Q&A portion of this webinar, but we'll go ahead and repeat them as well so others can take advantage of those answers. So the first question that we have is, may we use these funds to support staff salaries or the hiring of new staff?
Yes. You request funding to support existing staff. If you have a need to bring additional staff on, those both are eligible and allowable.
Perfect, thanks so much, Kate. Our next question is regarding our preservation program. The question is, can the funds be used to preserve affordable single-family homes as well as multifamily homes?
Yes, definitely for both multifamily and single family.
Perfect. And kind of related to that, we have another question about renovation of affordable housing. Can the funds be used specifically for the renovation? And then specific also the cost of materials related to that renovation?
So I think you heard Kate say that you can't, Section 4 can't really be used for direct construction activities. So when the question is, can it be used for renovation? I think it depends on what type of activities you would be using Section 4 to support. And then I will let Kate respond to the materials question. I think some are eligible and some aren't, but Kate, if you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, so I think we would need just more information to understand, kind of the nature of the renovation, and then what types of materials you'd be interested in requesting funds to support. One thing that I would recommend everyone do that kind of has a similar question or that's thinking about requesting funding for this is to review Appendix O of the grants guide, which lists out all the federal provisions that govern the Section 4 award, and it includes environmental regulations that you should take into consideration for any kind of proposed activities that may impact or alter the environment. So it really just depends on, the nature of the renovation. So if you want to send a follow-up question or if you want to send something to the RFP mailbox here, we can get that information and help you figure out if this is something worthwhile.
Perfect. That sounds great. Thanks, Kate.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we have a few questions around the reimbursement process. So the question is, how often can we submit for reimbursement of funds? And typically, about how long does it take to receive those funds?
Okay, so Enterprise doesn't have a set disbursement schedule, but that being said, we like to see that you're using our funds and that your activities and programs are moving along. So you could submit a request as often as every month. You could do it every quarter. We do prefer to have more frequent disbursements versus waiting for one single disbursement at the end. And that's really just, again, to kind of give us some information about how your project's coming along. And then in our standard terms and conditions, we ask that grantees allow us 30 days to process any payment request. I will say it doesn't normally take 30 days, but I would use that as kind of a benchmark just to guide any request that you may submit, especially if you think that you may need the money quickly.
Perfect. That's super helpful. Thanks for clarifying that, Kate. All right, so we have some questions regarding overlap in program areas. So the question is, if our work overlaps into multiple of the program areas that have been defined by enterprise, is it okay to apply under more than one program area, or how would that work?
So in SlideRoom, you have the ability to check one or all three of the program areas depending on what you're proposing. So, you know, selecting one or more won't have an impact really on the scoring of your proposal either way.
Great, that's helpful. Thank you. All right, the next question is regarding the financial audit requirement. So the question is, if we're having trouble receiving our updated audit due to COVID delays, is a 2018 IRS 990 okay to satisfy that requirement?
Is Elise on the line?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Sorry, I had
That's
to
okay.
unmute myself.
Okay.
So yes, that's sufficient. Send your most recent, so we understand that there could be delays with audits or financial statements. So go ahead and submit your most recent.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Elise. All right, so we have a few more questions regarding how the funds can be used for various staff salaries. So one of them is regarding the fund development staff. Can the Section 4 awards be used for those types of employees?
Fund development staff. Does that mean, I guess I would maybe just ask more information. Is that fundraising or development staff?
Yeah, and that came, I think everybody's muted, but we can, I see, Joe, that came from you. We can go ahead and reach out to you. I'm thinking it's not fundraising. I'm thinking it's program fund development. So maybe we answer it from that direction.
Okay. So, okay. So I'm thinking, again, maybe I might need some more information, but what we could support is what we call project-related capital raising. So really that's kind of your work on, I think like LIHTC applications or other similar project-related capital type activities. And the expectation there is that at the end of our grant period, if you decide to use your grant funds, you know, for that work, would be that we would be able to clearly pinpoint those activities to say, you know, a particular development, like Hacienda Boulevard at this particular address that serves, you know, 60% AMI or below residents, something like that. But again, if I missed the mark on that question, feel free to follow up with us at the RFP mailbox and we'll get you squared away.
Great, thanks, Kate. All right, if we are a new CDC or CHOTO and don't have a 990 or an audit yet, can we still meet the audit requirement? Elise, pass that one to you.
So I would say if you could submit your whatever financial statements you have, and you can, I guess, make a note of your situation. We will see that also through your completion of the questionnaire.
Great, that sounds good. Thanks, Elise. All right, we have a few questions around eligible uses related to construction. So the question is, can we use funds for pre-construction cost, design cost, and or actual construction cost on the development of units or housing?
So pre-development expenses, so design, architecture, engineering, those are all eligible. I think it gets perhaps a little more complicated again, depending on what we're defining construction as. So I mentioned with the previous question about renovations, I think we would really just need to understand what you're proposing and to make sure that whatever that is doesn't have an impact or alter the environment without kind of having proper documentation from your local HUD office. Some of that work may require further environmental review. So if you want to pursue that, just keep in mind, depending on that, you know, we probably would, well, we would not issue a grant agreement without either seeing those local HUD approvals or either that, you know, an environmental review wasn't required. But if you want to send, again, more information to the RFP mailbox, we'll be happy to look into that a little bit more.
Perfect. Thanks, Kate. Next question, are CDFIs eligible to apply?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, yes, as long as they meet the CDC criteria or equivalent and are a CHODO.
Yeah, and we've vetted a few native CDFIs that we're currently funding. So again, if there are any questions on eligibility, please let us know and we can confirm if you are able to apply or not.
Perfect. Thanks, Sarah. All right, we have a couple questions around budget. And so those entail, one, just if we're not approved for the entire budget that we asked for, will we be denied completely, or can we receive partial grant for a partial amount of what we're asking for?
So the answer is yes. There's you know, always the chance that you ask, let's just say you ask for $100,000, but the recommendation of award is for $50,000. If that's the case, then your enterprise contact will reach out to you with the scope of work and budget that you submitted as part of your proposal, and we'll ask you to make changes so that request fits more in line with the $50,000 award.
Great, thanks so much, Kate. All right, related to the Certificate of Good Standing, how would I know where to find my organization Certificate of Good Standing?
So let's see here. So most organizations, we mentioned, you can get that information from your state's business filing agency or through your Secretary of State. And you can, most secretaries of state have a website that you can go to check your status. If you are running into problems getting that, again, email us at the RFP mailbox, and we'll see if we can help you out if you can't figure out where to go.
Perfect. Thanks so much. All right, another budget question. So do we need to diversify our funds in the budget that we're asking for? Or if we're asking for, let's say, $50,000 and we plan to use those funds all for the same purpose, perhaps that is a staff salary or consultant of some sort, is it okay to only have one line item on our budget, or do we need to have a more detailed breakdown?
So it doesn't matter how many different budget line items you have. I think it really just I would focus on making sure that what you're requesting grant funding for aligns with the described activities and programs in your scope of work, and that it ties together nicely. So if you really only have a staffing need, then that's fine, and it won't have any kind of impact on how your proposal is scored.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Kate. All right, I think we only have one question left. We will monitor if they continue to come in while you're into this last one, but a pretty easy one. Will this deck be available for our reference later on as we're applying?
Yes, of course. We're going to post this and a recording of today's webinar on our website. And it will be, I think, as Sarah kind of talked about, the layout of our website. All of our grant opportunities are broken out on the website, and there's a section specifically for the Rural and Native American Program RFP. So that information will be right under that heading.
All right, that sounds fantastic. All right, it doesn't seem like we have any more questions that have come through. So we'll go ahead and tie this up. We'll be sure to post these question and answers on our website, just as Kate mentioned, where the slide deck will be. And then if you have any more questions, you can submit them to rfp@enterprisecommunity.org, and somebody will get back to you as fast as possible to help you with your question. Any last words, Sarah or Kate?
Just thank you so much for attending today and for your interest in our rural and Native American work. And I am looking forward to reviewing applications as they come in. And please let us know if there's any questions in the meantime.
Yep. Best of luck with your applications.
Awesome. Thanks, ladies, and thanks to everybody for joining. Hope everybody has a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.